4 choices, and today I'm going to show you how you can get into mezcal. And if I'm going to talk to you about mezcal, sure as hell I'm drinking some mezcal. So when I went to Oaxaca, I went in with the mentality that I was actually going there to completely write off mezcal as a spirit itself, because every other mezcal that I had had up to this point in time in my life has been something that I've just truly, really just did not like. So up to this point in time in my life, I had actually had a lot of really bad mezcals, and I kind of went in with the intention of just writing it off. I thought if I didn't like it in Oaxaca, how am I going to like it anywhere else? I finally started trying mezcal, and I realized that the reason why I haven't been enjoying it was because I was having really bad mezcal, and I finally was having really good mezcal. So I'm going to tell you about the roadmap that I took, and hopefully it helps you out on your journey. So a couple of things that you should know about mezcal is that they're made from 40 plus different varieties of mezcal, of the different agave plants. They're called magueys. Big difference between tequila and mezcal is that you should know that mezcal is actually cooked in the ground in a very, very big hole that they dig, and they set fire at the bottom, and they cook it out, and they cover it, and they usually tarp it for a couple of days, anywhere from 7 to 10 days, depending on what you're cooking. Now, once it's cooked, you need to be very familiar with what kind of mezcal you're about to have. So the most important information that I can give you about mezcal is that if it just simply says mezcal on the label and it does not have specific keywords, it is likely made by machines, and it's just mass produced, and it does not have a very keyword, which is a big difference in why mezcal is going to taste better, which is something that says Artisanal, which is basically the artisanal way of making mezcal, which is pulled with a donkey or a horse, and it's pulls this big wheel, stone wheel, call it tahona, which makes the mezcal taste significantly better. And the last version of that is Ancestral, which is the ancestral way of making it. It's basically using no additional machines, hand milling, clay pot distillation. It's just the most traditional way of making mezcal from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Now, let's get to the most important thing, which is let's learn how to taste it, and let's learn how to enjoy this beautiful craft. So let's get into the most important thing I'm going to teach you about mezcal, which is how do you enjoy it? How do you get into this? So step number 1, contrary to what I would have said in our wine video, mezcal is not going to be a style of level up. What I mean by that is that the easiest way to get into mezcal is, first and foremost, you got to get a taste for it. Easiest way is, if you're a cocktail fan, try a Mezcalgarita. It's the absolute easiest way to start getting used to a little bit of that smokiness that tends to have in mezcal. Number 2, if you're already a fan of peatiness, which is something traditional that you find in Scotch, not all Scotch, but you don't mind smoke, you're going to have a much easier time getting into mezcal if you're already used to something like that and you have enough of those characteristics of that wood and smoke that you normally get in Scotch. And now, when you're finally ready to try mezcal just for what it is and just how it tastes, the easiest way is going to be something called an ensamble, which is an ensemble. And it's basically where they mix several of these mezcales into one specific batch. That's just because they're way more flavorful, and it's going to make it really easy on your palate to enjoy something like that versus just a straight single blend. And even though you might not know which blend you're having or which one you're liking out of there, it is absolutely the easiest way to get into it. Contrary to wine, where I would suggest for you to do a single varietal and move your way up to the blends, I would say that it's much better with mezcal to start off with ensembles, just because they're significantly easier to get into that way. So with mezcal, it's way more important that you get past that smokiness and that char-like flavor and that intensity. And that way, when you drink an ensemble or an ensemble, you're going to get a little bit more of a balanced-like flavor versus the single varietal mezcal, which is going to be a little bit more intense because it's very direct. The ensemble is actually easier because it's got a little bit of blend of everything. So you're getting a little bit of richness, sweetness from a little bit of the different plants that they have. Now, every plant has its own specific flavor. And usually if you're getting it from a really good palenque, which is where they make mezcal, you're going to find somebody who's a master mezcalero who already knows what blends they want to put together and what tends to work really well together. They've already decided what to pair together because they know these mezcales taste better together, and then these might taste better together. If you've gotten into ensembles, the next step is going to be to start trying a couple of single varietals or ensembles, but the key here is to stick with what's called a Silvestre mezcal, which is a wild mezcal. Wild mezcales tend to have significantly more flavor than its actual plant, which it's primarily made from, which is called Espadin. If you drink a wild mezcal, those are the ones that we're talking about. They have about 40 different varietals. Espadin is the main plant that mezcal is made from, but wild mezcal tends to have significantly more flavor than Espadin. Once you've gotten into wild mezcales and you've liked those, then you can go into Espadin. So you're almost going reverse in how we would have recommended for you in the wine video. You're basically trying as many as you can, then some rare ones, and then the more basic ones. And that's the easiest way to get into mezcal. So next thing up is, realistically, before you drink any spirit, you really should look up how you should taste it. Mezcal, amongst everything that I did when I first walked into Oaxaca, the very first thing that I was taught is these have very high gravity of ABV. First thing that you need to note is that when you smell the mezcal, do not have your mouth fully closed. You should have a very small opening, because when you smell, some of it may be very intense on you, and you might have these like burnt nostril feeling. This actually allows some of the alcohol to actually escape through your mouth, and it's a little bit easier for you so that you don't burn your nostrils up. Number two, very traditionally, they're going to serve you mezcal with worm salt, which is sal de gusano, and they're going to give you an orange. This is not a chaser. Do not drink your mezcal and then do it as a chaser. This is to break up the intensity of the next mezcal you're about to have, or as an after flavor that you can have after you've drank your shot. Do not drink it as a chaser. That's not what it's meant for. Now, when you first start to actually drink it and taste it, very, very important. You are about to rock your palate, likely with something over 40% ABV. I'm drinking 50% right now. Do not throw an entire shot into your palate. It's gonna make you go, ah, it's gonna hurt. That's not the way you drink mezcal. Drink a very small piece of it. Coat your mouth. Let it sit in your palate for a little bit. Wake up those taste buds. Once you have woken up your taste buds, then you're ready to actually drink some mezcal. If you just drink it straight right off the bat, it's gonna hurt. You're gonna have a bad time. It's gonna hurt. You're gonna feel it right in your chest, and you're gonna feel that feeling right in your mouth, which is not a pleasurable feeling. What you wanna do is you wanna take a little bit, wake up those taste buds, and then after you've sat on it for about 15 seconds on your palate, then you wanna go ahead and drink it, because it's gonna be a little bit easier to handle, way more palatable, and you're gonna be able to taste the flavors a lot better. So for the final thing that I think is very important, I'll just tell you what happened to me when I was in Oaxaca. When I was there, I told the master mezcalero, who actually is the maker of these right here, I said to him, I don't like mezcal because it is just way too smoky, and it's just a lot of burnt char flavor. First thing he said to me immediately was, man, you've been having really bad mezcal. And I said, really? Okay. I said, well, hey, if you can change my mind, let's do it. Started giving me the mezcals that he makes, and I realized immediately I have been having really bad mezcal. If you're getting too much smoke and char, that's because when they smoke and char these bits of magueys, they cut a big hole in the ground, they stack all these magueys on there, and they basically light them up on fire. Now the ones all the way at the top, they get cooked out. And when you try maguey after it's cooked, it's really, really sweet. It's very sugary. It tastes like cane sugar. It's actually really, really good. But the bottom pits, all the way at the bottom, they use a lot of those charred up bits that are burnt out, and all of those pieces still have some yield in them. What I mean by that is the liquid. So if you take out too much of those chars, you're gonna get a lot less bottles. Less bottles means less profits. So when a company cares way too much about profits, what do you think is gonna happen? The bottles don't taste great, because they include all those charred bits, because they wanna squeeze every penny that they can out of those magueys that they just cooked. They don't throw them away. When I went to this guy's palenque where he makes these, he actually told me, I cut out every single piece that's overly charred, because you're not supposed to use those. That's not intended pieces that are supposed to be used, and he specifically cuts them out of his. So never be mistaken that with char and smoke, it's supposed to be an afterthought, an after flavor. In fact, we're having this right here, and this is a great representation. I'm getting mostly all the plant forward, earthiness, minerality out of the mezcal. The smoke is actually an afterthought, and it's on the back part of my palate. It's barely even noticeable. And honestly, that's what got me into mezcal. So that's the reason why I share that story with you. So lastly, you might be thinking to yourself, well, where do I go to try mezcal? First thing you want to do is look up mezcal bars in your area. Very, very high chance they actually have flights. You can actually try several different mezcals for a pretty cheap price, and it'll give you a good variety and range of trying them. Keep in mind my what I just mentioned. Try the Ensambles if you can get your hands on those, and if not, try some Silvestres, which are those wild mezcales. And finally, if you can get, and if you're just right into the single varietals and you're already enjoying them, then you're already home, baby. So to cap off this video, one of the things that I learned when I was in Oaxaca is that it was very traditional for you to actually drink a shot of mezcal before your meal, and after you're done with your meal is to have another shot. So just like at the beginning of this video, we had our opening shot, we just finished our video having our second shot. As always, drink what you like.